me? You guys, these are the ones showing up. All right. We've got sound. I can't hear you guys, but at least y'all can hear me. We're going to try something else. So while he's at it, and I'm sorry that we're having all this problem, just bear with us. So I know you've got your first assignment due. I told you we'd back it up 1 week, so you're going to have to kind of hustle on your second assignment. Keith, I just got your revised job description. I haven't looked at it, been fooling with this, but hopefully what I do recommend y'all to do, and I know I can't hear you, but if you'll look on PowerPoint or Blackboard, when on these, under course content, there's grading criteria for assignments. When you write your job description and all these assignments, this is what I'm going to grade you by, okay? So when you write this, just go ahead and you can grade it yourself before you turn it in. Make sure that you have everything on here. Even if your job description, you may not require one of these, say like travel, say you just got somebody coming in mowing your grass. Just say travel's not involved and there'll be no overnight stays. I just want you to address it so you can get those 2 points. And the reason I did this is everybody has something different. And I want to be very objective. So everybody knows what you're going to be graded on. It's just not, oh, he doesn't like me, so he's harder on me than he is on John Doe. Does that make sense? So I try to set a set of criteria there that everybody will be graded on the same stuff. So, if you don't have a division or a department, make one up. Have it work that way. And I still can't hear them. So hopefully that will make it better. But when you do your job description, pull this hiring grade decision cover sheet out, and just grade it yourself. Make sure you've got all these bases covered for each and every one of these assignments. And that'll help you get a better grade and make sure you know what I'm looking for. I've got some examples of here in under course content this week 2. I do have some examples of job descriptions. It may help, hopefully it'll help you out, and a thing on how to write a job description. So there's plenty of examples and some stuff I downloaded from the internet on how to write job descriptions. So hopefully that will help you guys out. Can one of you guys talk and see if we've got sound yet?
Hello, do you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we've got sound now, Joe.
So you can get by without tripping.
All right. I'm sorry about this. It just happens. Hopefully we'll get everything fixed. All right. Thank you, Joe. All right. So, uh, Keith, I'll look at your job description and get back to you on that. Uh,
I
I
appreciate
did get
that.
the updated version, and I know you're in a hurry for it because of your grant. Uh, so that's good. And what we'll do here, guys, with this assignment, let me go back here to the syllabus. I know it shows that this assignment is due Friday. We'll back that up to the next Friday for you guys since we didn't have class last week due to weather. So we'll just back that up to 26th, and then your job announcement will still be due the week of the February the 2nd. So what we'll do on these guys, these assignments, I just have them wrote down the week of classes, but have that to me by Sunday night before the week starts, So have that to me. Let's see, the 27th would be on Friday, 28th Saturday, 29th is Sunday. So have that to me by the 29th, the Sunday there. So do y'all have any questions regarding that?
So what I sent you is I did a job description and the job announcement.
Okay. On that job announcement, Keith, did you have everything included on that
To the best of
grading
my knowledge,
criteria?
I think
Okay.
so. If you just let me know, I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, I will. It won't be a problem.
Thanks, sir.
I should be able to turn it down in here. None of that works now? Yeah, just a little bit. Okay, guys, let me ask you a question. I know Keith's been out in the workforce. The other two there, I think you probably been out in the workforce, but I don't know if you've done much management or supervising. But let me ask you a couple questions. Do y'all think people are mostly the same or are they different?
People are very different. It's different as night and day.
Okay, y'all, Keys will agree with that or disagree with it?
Yes, sir. I have to agree with that.
All right, what about you, ma'am?
Agree.
You agree? All right. Uh, in some aspects, I agree with it. In some aspects, I disagree with it. Okay. When we start thinking about personality, motivation, things like that, how we're raised, culture, religion, a lot of us have there's a lot of differences. But if we think about the very basics, there's a lot of similarities. We want to be happy, right? Happiness is fleeting. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're not happy. We wake up angry for some reason. But, I guess we want to have joy in our lives. We want to be able to provide a living for ourselves and our families, correct? We all want to be treated with respect. We want to be able, in our jobs, to be able to progress, increase our earning potential. Some people have desires to be in supervisory roles. Some people just want to be the best worker they can be and don't really want to deal in supervisory roles, but they still want to get raises and be able to provide a living for their family and live comfortably. Do y'all agree with that?
I do agree with that, and I know from experience that just because you're not in a management position doesn't mean that you don't need to be treated any different than somebody
That's
that
right.
is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Um,
I
so
think all those,
there
I
are,
think all those qualities you state, that's what makes each person unique and different.
yeah, we're all, every one of us is unique, and there's a lot of differences between people, but when we're thinking about working and providing for our families, we have a lot of the same stuff. We all want the same stuff. So it makes it really challenging when we're dealing with people because what motivates me is not going to motivate Keith, or it's not going, or it may or may not motivate you guys, uh, and vice versa. So trying to figure out what motivates your employees is going to be tough. Trying to figure out you know, how to handle people that like to cut up or aggravate people or don't want to do their work, or, kind of the troublemaker group we kind of put people in. That's tough. How to handle somebody that's constantly late. It makes human resource management tough. And the thing I can tell I will tell you is that it is hard, and you're always constantly learning. And if you can treat people like people, the way you want to be treated, with respect, it'll go a long ways. Um, I'll give you an example. When I first got out of college, you know, finished school, finished college, finished grad school, I got a job managing a farm. I've never been a farm manager my entire life. This job was very overwhelming to me. And I had people I had to supervise. And I'm green as green can be. And this one guy that I had that was working there on that farm, been there for 20 years. And I had heard all sorts of horror stories about this guy. How he didn't like to work, how he wouldn't do anything, always tear up everything. And uh, here I was coming in as his boss. And this guy knew more than me on the day-to-day basis. And, you work at a farm for 20 years, you're going to learn something about cattle, whether you grew up with them or not, right? And, I went to him and I told him, I said, hey, we both work for the same outfit. I'm supposed to be your supervisor, but I realize you've got a lot of seniority on me. You've got a lot more experience than I do. I need your help because, we succeed here. It's going to be better on both of us. And that's the way I treated him. I didn't treat him as an underling. Uh, I would go to him and ask him stuff all the time. If I had to go move when I first started, and I didn't do this all the time, but like when I first started there and I had to move some cattle, I asked him, hey, where do when I get these cattle started coming down toward the pens, where are they going to break on me? Where do I need to position myself? Because, they'll run up another holler or whatever. Where do these cattle like to break? And, I could have done it without him and just figured that out on my own, but, it sure made him feel good I was coming and asking him questions. At the end of the first winter, I started there in the fall. My boss came by. We were working the calves and turning them out on grass, and he said, Dwayne, these cattle look the best they've ever looked. coming out of winter. And there was Melton standing there beside of me, and I said, well, you need to thank Melton because he's the one that fed them. And my boss's jaw hit the ground. Melton's jaw hit the ground because Melton's never received any credit for anything he did. And after that, that guy would walk through the fires of hell for me because I gave him credit where credit was due. All because I treated him like a person. And he taught me a lot. So, you know, in some ways we're the same, some ways we're different. Now,
Mr. Farr, that's a really good example. And when you said that, it's flashed back to my own experience. One of the problems that I realized, just because you're a good technical ability doesn't make you a good supervisor. And one of the things people try to do, at least what I try to do in my work experience, I try to treat everybody the same equally as a group, and I wasn't getting anywhere. But when I finally figured out treating people individually and find out what the carrot was that motivated them, some people wanted a slap on the back, some people wanted to be recognized or whatever, and some people didn't. So I think that's one of the important things that you have to know when you work with people, what motivates each individual.
yeah. And you know, guys, a sincere thank you will go a long ways. A sincere job well done, it'll go a long ways. Now, as you're getting ready to write your job descriptions, there's a couple things that we're running out of time. I want to make sure I hit this today. A couple terms you'll need to know for the exam and for this deal. It's some considerations for discrimination. All right, guys, it's illegal in any shape or form to discriminate according to age, sex, race or color, national origin, disability, and religion. You just can't do it. Okay? The other thing you need to watch out for, and we see, and this is where a lot of discrimination, I think, takes place, are these two terms here, this disparate treatment and adverse impact. Disparate treatment is just outright discrimination. And I don't think we see that, or I hope that we don't see that or participate in that. You know, hiring a man over a woman for a farm job when they're both capable, if they're both capable of doing it, or hiring a woman over a man. An example would be a dairy farmer. I think the book uses the example of a dairy farmer looking to hire some milkers. And through his past experience, women milkers did a better job, you know, and not to try to make generalizations, but just my experience, you know, some women tend to pay more attention to details, and they tend to be cleaner than us guys. And so when you're milking cows and you're cleaning udders and teats, and you have a very meticulous plan that you have to, or steps or procedures that you have to follow, for this particular farmer, women did a better job than men. So he always hired women to be milkers. Even if it was a very experienced, very capable man, he would hire a woman over that man. And I think he got in trouble for disparate treatment, or that would be an example of that. Or hiring somebody just based on race or religion or disability or national origin. That would come under disparate treatment, and age as well. Now, adverse impact and I think that's where we see more of it, is having requirements higher than what the job requires. Just like uh, hiring somebody to drive, to do tractor work. Do they have to have a high school education? It depends now. Uh, Typically, I would have said no, they don't have to. If they can drive and, learn, they can drive a tractor and run the implements you need to run, or have the ability to learn how to operate those implements. They don't have to have a high school diploma. Some of these larger outfits, it may be a different ball game now because of GPS units in tractors. They're going to have some type of computer skills, whether you teach it to them or, they just know it. So that's, so things are changing regarding, equipment now with more technology in that. But that would be an example. Just like Keith is looking for somebody to do to work with his bees. Doesn't really need a high school education to work with bees. Part-time kid out of after school could do that job. If he could do the record keeping and those basic computer skills, which most kids do nowadays. So those are two things you want to look at. So on your job description, you want to make sure that you don't have anything regarding or anything that could be considered discrimination. That couldn't get you in trouble in the future. So pay attention to that. Some laws that we have to go by is that federal equal opportunity employment laws, Civil Rights Act, Equal Pay Act, paying women the same as men, age discrimination. You young folks there in Keysville, you just can't not hire Keith or me because we're over the age of 40. So be careful with that. And the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, to talk about this one just a second before we leave, how can this impact us in agriculture? Can somebody with a disability work in agriculture?
Well, I was thinking, suppose you were looking for a milker and somebody showed up with only one arm. So, they can't do the job.
Right. So how can we, but maybe they can. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. One of the things, when we go through a hiring process, the more selection criteria we have, the better the chance we are of finding the person with the right fit. So like if somebody shows up with a disability, it's going to be hard pressed if they say they can do it, just not to hire them, right? But what if you set up a practical exam for your interviewee or for the potential candidates? If you're looking for a milker, you have them come in and help milk. Or if you're looking for a tractor driver, you set up a tractor driving course. Make them hook up an implement. Make them back up a wagon. Maybe have them operate an implement. So
I got a question.
Okay.
So like, let's say we have a potential employee that has a disability. How would we know like the cutoff line, or how, not like a cutoff line, but like if they have a disability and we pretty much know they won't be able to do this job, but we don't want to be rude to them. How would you come along with that, with the process?
To protect myself, I would probably set up some type of practical exam and have all of my candidates or the candidates that's gotten up to that point go through that practical exam.
Okay.
You know, like if I'm looking at a general farm laborer, I want to make sure that they have enough strength to lift a sack of feed or square bales of hay. I want them to be able to drive a tractor and hook up implements. I want to know if they can work cattle.
Yeah.
So I may have them, you know, may have a few sacks of feed in the back of the pickup truck and they have to carry it from point A to point B and put it in a feed trough. Or, you know, and then climb on a tractor and hook up a hay spear and move a bale of hay.
Mr. Farley, one thing I learned. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
One thing I learned by doing my research for job description stuff in regards to disability, there's funds available to prospective employers who hire disabled workers that they can get cut back on some of their taxes and also get a stipend from the government. And a lot of the disability people, I'm not an expert in this, but what I understand is they'll come to the job with a impairment rating, and it tells you what they can do and what they can't do, so you know that up front.
That's correct. And there may be some grants available for that as well. Or, you know, some type of incentive for you to hire people with disabilities. Now, one thing you do got to keep in mind, if you're doing a practical test and there's someone there with a disability, you will have to make adjustments for them to be able to do that, to give them a fair shot. Does that make sense? You know, you may have to make it you'll have to make it accessible for them to be able to perform it some way. What the extent of that would be, I don't really know. But you may have to make some type of adjustment for that.
I give you another personal example of that. I was involved. I was in a company car, a company job, and I was involved in a bad car wreck. I was rear-ended, and I was out of work for a while, and I had to end up getting a fusion in my back. For me to come back to work, the company had to provide me with another car, but because of my disablement, they had to get a car with a adjustable lumbar support. So that was expense that they had to bear.
Right. So, you know, it's a trickery. It's a slick slope with that. And, you know, don't be afraid to consult a lawyer, guys. You know, you may have to pay a little bit, but in the long term, if it keeps you from getting a anti-discrimination suit thrown against you, or a discrimination suit thrown against you, it would be worth that money. Okay? So keep in mind, it's not going to hurt to talk to a lawyer to make sure everything's legal if you have questions, because you don't want to go to court. You don't know what will happen. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So don't be afraid to ask a lawyer. So we're out of time. So anyway, I'll let you guys go and get ready to stretch your legs before Tom's class. But again, apologize for the issues with the sound. Hopefully we'll get that fixed.
I have one more question, not related to the class, but related to the job description. And some of the paperwork I'm filling out, it's asking me, am I providing workman's comp or disability insurance, and what type of liability insurance I have for the worker? And I'm a fish out of water. I don't know what they're asking me there. So if you don't answer it now, but if you can just think about it for next time, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, with workman's comp, to have workman's comp, you have to have, I think it's 3 I go over that later in the semester. So I'm trying to answer this from top of my head from last year. But you do have to have, I think you have to have 3 paid employees before you have to carry workman's comp. So if you're paying yourself, paying your wife, and paying the employee, that may fall under that 3. The magic number's 3.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Be 4th employee, then you have to have it, or the 3rd employee, you have to have it. So if it's just you and the guy you're hiring, you won't have to have that. But you do need to make sure that your farm insurance will cover that employee should something happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that very much does, but I didn't know. It almost looks like it costs me as much to meet the qualification to hire somebody than my return on investment. Might not be getting a net gain out of it. It looks the way all the regulations I have to conform to.
And sometimes that's the case. When we hire somebody, it costs a lot more than what we're just paying them. By the time you take out we've all been in the workforce, and when we get that paycheck, it's not, if we get paid $10 an hour and we work 10 hours, we're not getting $100 take home pay, right? The employer's taking out a certain amount of money or out of our paycheck to pay FICA. And Social Security tax. And then that employer has to match that amount of money. And that's coming out of his own pocket or their own pocket. And then if they have to carry disability or workman's comp, that's coming out of the employer's pocket. If they have to pay unemployment tax, that's coming out of the employer's pocket. Unemployment insurance tax. So it's expensive to hire people. So this going through this hiring process, you want to make sure you hire the person that's best suited for that job. So the more selection criteria we do, the better off we are to find that person.
Well, thank you.
All right, I better let you guys go. We're going to get cut off, but I appreciate your questions and I appreciate you guys' patience. And Keith, I'll look over that today.
Okay,
I'll
thanks,
run
sir.
to my office and look at